Hello, comrades. Within the United States, there are a variety of communist parties that one could become involved with. One of the more historically significant parties is the Communist Party of the USA. Historically, the CPUSA has been prominent in American leftism, especially during the Cold War and during the time of William Z. Foster, who served as the party chairman of the CPUSA from 1945 to 1957. The CPUSA was at one point a promising figure of the class struggle and the upholding of proletarian principle. Unfortunately, throughout the years, the organization has fallen from grace, and according to many, they've fallen hard. As time rolled on, the Communist Party of the United States fell victim to revisionism and opportunism. The organization has grossly changed from Marxism-Leninism to modern-day Kautskyiism. In viewing the actions of the party in recent years, one can see how the CPUSA has morphed into an organization of revisionist dogma and opportunism. First, let's look at who the CPUSA endorsed during the 2016 presidential election. If one looks on the website of the CPUSA, one can find that for the 2016 election, this party endorsed Hillary fucking Clinton for President of the United States. The Communist Party of the United States, who should be standing for workers' rights, the right of nations to self-determination, and other key components of Marxism, endorsed one of the most bourgeois, corrupt politicians in all of modern history. How communistic of them. If one were to look in Chapter 2 of Joseph Stalin's The Foundations of Leninism, there is a section regarding political slogans which is profoundly accurate in regard to the current state of the CPUSA.
As for the political slogans and the political resolutions of the parties of the Second International, it is sufficient to recall the history of the slogan "War Against War" to realize how utterly false and utterly putrid are the political practices of these parties, which use pompous revolutionary slogans and resolutions to cloak their anti-revolutionary deeds. Is it not clear that revolutionary slogans and resolutions are not worth farthing if they are not backed by deeds?
This is the slogan of the CPUSA. People and planet before profit. Noble words, but utterly meaningless ones coming from this organization. As it was explained in the Foundations of Leninism, one's slogans and other such rhetoric means nothing if they do not practice what they claim to stand for. Hillary Clinton is not someone who stands for the working people in any sense, and in no way did she stand for the health of the planet. This is the woman who was fucking happy about Gaddafi being killed and about the regime change in Libya. She does not stand for the people in any way, shape, or form. This displays how the opportunistic lies of the Kautskyists have been adopted by the CPUSA. Another example of revisionist dogma and opportunistic lying comes from, once again, an article from the CPUSA's website. When asked why the CPUSA supports bourgeois Democrats rather than having their own people run for presidential candidacy, this was their answer.
The Communist Party does not endorse candidates from other parties, but we are deeply involved in mobilizing people to participate in the elections.
This was published a mere 5 months before the 2016 election, the same election in which the CPUSA was pro-Clinton. Yeah, you really don't endorse candidates from other parties, do ya? As for the second part, sure, getting people involved with politics is good. The only problem is that the methodology of the CPUSA is inherently incorrect. The Communist Party of this country claims that a presidential election is not just about the candidates alone, but it's also about the direction in which the country itself is going. This is correct to some degree, yes, but you guys aren't helping by advocating for one of the most disliked, corrupt, bourgeois politicians in America, and arguably in the last 50 to 100 years. During the election, the CPUSA basically held the position of anyone but Trump, which, while in rhetoric sounds okay, this practice is detrimental to workers' movements and other oppressed peoples, especially when the whole anyone but Trump ideology ends up advocating for someone who essentially advocates for US interventionism and imperialism. Pretty much 90% of the things fucking Donald Trump economically stands for. A similar occurrence went on during the 2000 election when Al Gore was running for president. During this election, it was Al Gore and Joe Lieberman versus George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. And what was the standpoint of the Communist Party? To quote an article in regards to this situation,
Our approach is not love Gore Lieberman, but rather no son of a Bush in the White House.
Historically, the Communist Party of the United States will support the Democratic Party, who is still an advocate of neoliberal economics and imperialism, simply because they're not outright conservatives. That's opportunistic bullshit right there, man. These aren't the only examples of perverse revisionism being practiced by the so-called Communist Party of the United States. As time has progressed, the CPUSA has come to completely ignore the necessity of violent revolution and seeks only to bring about socialism through peaceful parliamentary means. The so-called Communist Party acts as the Kautskyists did in trying to assert that only through electoral struggle can socialism be achieved. To once again quote the foundations of Leninism.
Where and by whom has it ever been proved that the parliamentary struggle is the principal form of struggle for the proletariat? Does not the history of the revolutionary movement show that the parliamentary struggle is only a school for and an aid in organizing the extra-parliamentary struggle of the proletariat, that under capitalism the fundamental problems of the working-class movement are solved by force, by the direct struggle of the proletarian masses, their general strike, their insurrection?
Many American leftist groups have actually released publications that shit-talk the CPUSA and expose their revisionist tendencies, both in the past and in the modern day. Barry Weisberg, who was a member of the CPUSA-ML, wrote an article in 1980 which touched upon the CPUSA's revisionism and their distortion of the class struggle, ignoring the necessity of an armed proletariat for legitimately effective revolution.
Here lies the poisonous connection between the revisionist conceptions of American democracy advocated by Earl Browder and the transition to socialism advocated by Gus Hall and company today. Absent is the necessity for socialist revolution and armed struggle. Allegedly, bourgeois democracy in America will itself lead to socialism in a peaceful transition, with sections of the capitalist class along for the ride. But the extension of democracy, no matter how beneficial, never leads by itself to the overthrow of capitalism.
The Communist Party of the United States has devolved into nothing more than a hollow shell of what it was during the time of William Z. Foster. For so long, the CPUSA has allowed itself to become nothing more than a clusterfuck of revisionists, reactionaries, and opportunists advocating for impotent reformism as the only road to socialism. This organization is full of lies, it does not truly advocate for the liberation of workers and other oppressed people, and it does not truly uphold Marxism-Leninism. Do not trust the CPUSA. If you're going to join a Marxist organization, which, believe me, you should, do not partake in the horrible praxis of the CPUSA. There are so many more organizations which actually uphold Marxism-Leninism and work and stand for actual revolution. The Party for Socialism and Liberation, the World Workers' Party, the American Party of Labor, the Party of Communist USA. All of these are only a few examples of organizations that you could join instead of the revisionist, opportunist, dogmatist, and modern-day Kautskyists group that is the CPUSA. I'm Jymee Casual. Fuck you and bye.